Hi, today is Mercury Retrograde officially beginning. Um, you're going to hear a lot of hype, probably already heard a lot of hype today in your life about Mercury Retrograde. And I am here to tell you it's cool, baby. Uh, Mercury Retrograde is actually one of my favorite times. I recorded a podcast with my friend Devin a while ago about this that's available in the archives. But yeah, I mean, retrogrades in general are a great time, an opportunity to relieve a little of the pressure of doing. And they're about being with what is and looking back at where we've been, um, looking at the cycles of maybe the previous retrograde period, seeing how are those same themes coming up again? What different challenges are we being presented with? Kind of like this goes for planetary returns as well. Anytime a cycle is ending and anyone's beginning, like, okay, what worked about this past period? What didn't? How have my intentions been met or not? Yeah, just kind of like taking stock of how did it go and how do we want to maybe make it different going forward. Um, so I've said this before, but all the re words apply to retrogrades, like redo, review. Um, yeah, like there are some of those kind of stereotypical Mercury retrograde things that like I will say sometimes they do happen. Like if you're going to make travel plans, get a refundable ticket, um, it, have a backup plan, be prepared for wherever you're going to go to maybe take twice as long as you think it's going to. All of those kinds of things apply. Um, but it's like, yeah, I like having the opportunity to kind of relieve ourselves, right, of the pressure of like having to constantly produce. And I often find with my own work that like I think a lot of us like who are creatives or producing in any way, it's like we kind of iterate on a lot of the same things and we do it again and again. And as our perspectives change, and I actually think that's really helpful. And there's so much pressure to like be producing something new or some a hot take or whatever. But like, I think that we all have like our areas of specialization and we have topics that come up for us again and again. And that's okay. It's okay to slow down and look at what we've done. It's okay to say some variation of the same thing we've said before, right? Maybe whoever's listening to it didn't hear it the first time, or maybe this time the way you phrase it like makes it land a little differently. This is just even going for our interactions, right? Because Mercury is communication. Um, yeah, just kind of being with what's present and seeing how this could maybe be an echo of some kind of previous uh, iteration on the same theme. I'm going to be releasing some more stuff about this topic very soon. But yeah, I'm looking into like the ancient significations of the personal planets and the visible planets, and how a lot of the significations that we have for them today, the meanings, the interpretations that we have for them today, are very different than the ancient ones. And one present theme uh, is not only how kind of Mercury, Mars, and Venus are presented as these very binary archetypes in many ways, but they're all planets that have morning and evening star phases. They go through these cycles, the way their orbits align and, dance with the orbit of the Earth. Uh, they make these very unique cycles where, yeah, they have morning star phases where they're visible in the first hours of dawn above the horizon, or evening star phases when they're visible like within the first few hours after the sun sets. And ancient people thought they were stars and not planets. And at first they thought that they were two different ones because their expressions felt so different, and because they were visible at different parts of the sky at different times. But yeah, so it turns out that, Venus in her morning star phase, and I talked about this in a previous workshop that's also accessible in the archives on Venus cycles, but Venus in her morning star phase was like very Martian, and Mars in his evening star phase is more Venusian. Uh, Mercury goes both ways, is our trans trickster friend. Yeah, and I'm going to release more on that because the Mercury cycles are an interesting thing as well, where there's kind of four distinct Mercury phases that aren't talked about. And there's two different retrograde phases, and one is the Promethean. Uh, there's a Promethean direct and a Promethean retrograde, and an Epimethean direct and an Epimethean retrograde. Epimetheus was the brother of Prometheus in Greek mythology, who stole fire from the gods, and gave the gift of knowledge to humanity that also was a curse, right? And that's a very mercurial thing. Knowledge, we love knowledge. I love learning, but like our mind can be a trap, right? We can really suffer as a result of overthinking and overanalyzing. There's some things that just aren't meant to be communicated at all, or aren't meant to be communicated in certain ways, and that can present challenges to us. But yeah, so the Promethean phases are about like charging forward. The direct phase would be, yeah, kind of more initiation and like really going for it. Promethean direct would be the most active, the most Martian, about getting what we want. Sorry, I'm trying to find my notes on this. Yeah, so and the Promethean retrograde phase would be kind of like, okay, again, like let's review. Like, how did this work out? Did we get what we want? How did we, if we did, is the way that we went about it, was that constructive? Because yeah, we need the initiation. We need to create, we need to drive forward sometimes to make things happen. Mars. This is kind of Mercury putting on the guise of Mars. So one of my spiritual teachers, Lamarad Owens, talks about that we are deities in drag when we call upon them in our rituals, when we meditate and visualize them and bring them into our practice. Like, yeah, and that the deities themselves are in drag. Like, there's different faces of the gods that show up. Like, Tara is a deity that we work with a lot in Buddhist practice, and Tara, the name Tara, means star. There's just all these fun intersections and ways in which all of these things that we think are so different and so separate, it's like it depends on the context, the time and place. It depends where you are. It depends what practice you're calling it. There's actually a lot more similarities than differences. Characteristic Mercury retrograde fashion. This recording is now gone all kinds of different places that I wasn't planning to go today. But yeah, so Mercury puts on the drag of Mars in the Promethean direct phase. And yeah, really wants to drive forward. In the Promethean retrograde phase, which actually, sorry, that comes before the Promethean direct phase. This is a mind that wants to drive forward. It's kind of restless energy. It's very Uranian. I would say this is Mercury putting on the drag of Uranus, would be Promethean retrograde. So We want to break from the past. We want to drive forward. We want to bring in the new, the innovative, even the rebellious. But maybe are not quite able to bring those ideas into being yet, or those initiations are not complete yet. So then that's the first phase of Mercury. Then second phase, second drag of Mercury is Promethean direct. Again, that's putting on the drag of Mars, driving forward, go get him. The third phase is Epimethean direct. So Epimetheus was the brother of Prometheus. I don't know this mythology super well, but basically he was always kind of looking back at his brother. Prometheus, after stealing fire from the gods, was chained to a rock as punishment for giving humans knowledge that the gods didn't want them to have. And so basically he was cursed to have an eagle eat his liver out forever, over and over again, for eternity. Nice, huh? And his brother, yeah, I don't remember the mythology, but he was always looking back on the fate of the older brother, right? So this phase, Epimethean direct, the third phase, is analytical, deliberate, and I'm getting my primary source for this is Michael Meyer, Handbook for the Humanistic Astrologer. Yeah, that kind of is this very sort of new take on an old classic perspective on astrology, which is kind of everything I do and everything that astrology is. But yeah, so the ability to look at things from a historical, long range perspective, more objectivity, being more deliberate, still with some expansive energy, some teacher energy, looking back on things, but with an ability to kind of put them together and like maybe do something with them because we're direct here. So I would say this is Mercury putting on the drag of Jupiter, the expander, the teacher, the philosopher. So this is Mercury kind of, yeah, looking back at like the person chained to the rock being like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. But like, thanks for the lessons. And then Epimethean retrograde is the fourth phase. I would say this is Mercury putting on the drag of Saturn. Yeah, this is when Mercury sets after the sun again. And it's a contemplative phase. It's reflective. It's yeah, we're still Epimetheus here, so we're looking back, we're reviewing, and it's retrograde, so we're really emphasizing the redoing, the review, yeah, the ability to reevaluate what we did before. What are these beliefs? What are these structures that we're creating? What are these dreams that we're trying to bring into manifestation? Which this brings us to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, this other big astrology moment that's happening. We just had Neptune or Saturn enter the sign of Aries with Neptune. So our familiar cast of characters here, Aries is a sign ruled by Mars. And Neptune has been there already for a little while, and Saturn has entered. So Neptune is the dream and the collective, and yeah, definitely more of that intuitive dreaming quality. I know I've talked about this before. Saturn is our structure and our boundaries. Like the dreams are great, but how do we bring them to life? And this is all kind of within this larger context of Aquarian energies. So all of the personal planets just moved through Aquarius. Mars is the one who's still in Aquarius right now. The personal planets are the ones close to us that move quickly, that tend to, therefore, kind of maybe be a little more closely tied to what we're feeling and experiencing in the present moment. They orbit closer to Earth. So yeah, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, all are now in the sign of Pisces, which is the Neptune sign. So they're all in the dream. They're all feeling a bit more flowy and like artistic and creative and intuitive and squishy. But they just came out of the sign of Aquarius, and Mars is still there. And you've probably heard about the age of Aquarius as this kind of next evolution in human consciousness and civilizational development. And I do believe that is a possibility for our future. But just like every birth chart is a snapshot of what could be, it's a map. It's a route you can take or not, right? We have this moment as a collective, as humanity, to decide, like, do we want to initiate this new world, Mars, Aries? We're going to have to build some structure around it, Saturn. We're going to have some boundaries, Saturn, in order to bring our dreams, Neptune, Pisces, to life. The outer, yeah, that's something else I'm going to talk about later. We've got outer planets kind of taking positions right now. Outer planets they're kind of the opposite of these personal planets. They have long orbits, they move slowly, so their energies are more subconscious, more subtle, but they're with us for a very long time. They're all kind of assuming positions that are, again, well set to carry us into this new age, to bring us into this new way of thinking. But we have to have the initiation, the reflection, the retrospection, the retrograde vision to bring it forward, to make sense of it, to contextualize it. So Mars tomorrow goes exact in a square with Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, but Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So again, looking at these sort of the ways that ancient significations were very different from what they've been given now. The sign of Aquarius ruled just means that like that is the planet that has like the most influence over that sign. They have the most affinity. So they impart a lot of their qualities into that sign. You could say it's kind of them putting on the drag of the sign, right? Or vice versa, however you want to look at it. So traditionally, Aquarius was kind of like it did have some of these significations that we now attribute to Uranus, like innovation and technology and science and forward looking, and but in the context of the community, the social group, not so much the individual level. And so Saturn was kind of that, okay, we've got these innovative new things, but how are they helping the group? How are they helping the family? How are they helping the state, whatever, name your group of people, your organization? How are they helping a religious movement? How are they helping, yeah, whatever kind of collective action? Like, is it giving structure to a collective support? And Uranus is the opposite. Uranus is the rebel, the fire starter, the innovator, the like shake shit up, contrarian. Sometimes this figure that we really need, right? They're the lightning strike. They're the brilliant idea. They're the mad scientist. Like we need these people, but it's interesting that modern significations of Aquarius are related to Uranus. We assigned Uranus as the modern ruler, and certain schools of astrology basically like bumped Saturn and said, no, no, now Uranus is actually the one that makes more sense here. The ancient people didn't know Uranus existed. They didn't have telescopes. They couldn't see. All they could go off were the planets that they could observe at various times with their eyes. So that went as far as Saturn. They didn't know there was a Pluto. They didn't know there was a Neptune. They didn't know there was a Uranus. So, but it's just really interesting to look at those archetypal qualities, right? And like, have we gotten too far the other way? Are we looking at Aquarius in too much of a Uranian perspective when actually we need more Saturn? When maybe we need more Mars, and Mars being in Aquarius right now, aspecting Uranus. The square is also it's an aspect, which just means like a conversation that two planets are having in the sky of tension. Um, but it's one that is tension that is also like ripe for resolution. It's like not just an opposition would be that's when two planets are directly across the zodiac from each other. That's a bit more like butting heads, right? But a square 90 degrees is like, okay, maybe we're not seeing eye to eye, but like we are motivated to work it out. We want to see each other's perspective. We actually like want to resolve this. And so like it can be a huge opportunity. Kind of like a retrograde almost for being like, okay, let's hear both sides of the story and like take both into consideration. So it's kind of like, and then Uranus being in Taurus, that's like a very grounded sign. That's a very, it's earth, it's fixed, it's immovable. And actually Aquarius is a fixed sign as well. And so we think of it like Age of Aquarius, technodelic utopia, blasting forward, but it's a fixed sign. Fixed is the most, it describes like the way that sign wants to manifest in the world, sort of the way it interacts with other things. And I've got a whole other thing to share about this. I actually think Aquarius should be attributed to ether and not because what is fixed air? Air is never fixed. Air is constantly flowing. But that's what it is traditionally in astrology. So it's inherently a contradiction, which is why this is such a fun consideration and why like I do think we need to have Mars and Saturn combined with Aquarius and Uranus because we can't be all drive and all initiation and all bring the new shit to life if we don't have the ability to separate with what's not working, Mars, to honor tradition and bring it back. You know, the things we've been doing there's things we've been doing for a long time for a reason. And some of those we want to bring with us. We don't want to innovate so much Uranus that we lose ties with the past, Saturn. And Uranus and Taurus is like, okay, can we actually turn to the earth instead? And that's been my big lesson is like the earth is our original teacher. The earth is our connection point to ourselves. It's the thing, the earth, through our embodied experience of it, is what connects the heavens and the ground beneath us, right? The above and the below, the within and the without. There's a meditation we do in one of my Buddhist containers that's like you expand out to community. You expand up and down into dignity, which that's a whole other conversation with planets, but you expand forward and back into your environment, you know. So how can we bring it all with us? And like, where do we actually need more Saturn and more Mars in our Aquarius? So I've got something I'm going to release soon about like Mars as like the most hated sign of the zodiac. And like he gets such a bad rap. Saturn gets such a bad rap. But we need boundaries. We need to make separations. We need structure. We can't be all innovation. We can't be all dream. But we need those things, right? If we want to evolve. But we got to do it within boundaries, within limits, and to remember, like, we have bodies that need to be listened to, that need to be respected with their limits, right? We got to rest. We got to eat. These basic things can be very hard to do in capitalism. I personally struggle with tending to the needs of my body. Our resources are not inexhaustible, you know? And the old structures, like, have got to go. And we need to go, in my opinion, I think it's about this, Terence McKenna talked about it a lot, like the archaic revival. We need to look at the past, but the very ancient past, kind of before capitalism started, not even capitalism, like industrialization and kind of possessive narratives started taking place. And go back to the very beginning when when there was a lot less clear definition between things and we allowed for more flexibility. Okay, I'm gonna go, but yeah, more soon, and enjoy the retrograde, because here's another reword for you: relax.